First of all, hallelujah!
It is 4th and 26. McNabb is back. He's looking. He is firing, and it is caught by Freddie Mitchell.
And Pizarczyk fumbles the football. It's picked up by Herman Edwards. 15, 10, 9, touchdown Eagles. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Jackson takes it at the 35. Picks it up. Looks for running room. He's at the 40. He's at the 45. Midfield. Oh! He's let it go! The short back. Oh! I don't care if he's short. He's running around. And he's in the end zone. And he's still going. And the Eagles win. Bring it back again. He steps up his head and falls forward. And he fumbles the football and the Eagles have it. And it's recovered. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
You want the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me get a hell yeah! E-A-G-L-E-S Eagles!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Birds fans of all ages, and everybody out there in the Delaware Valley. This is Sundays for the Birds, a proud production of Old City Sports Network. We are your hosts. I'm the mayor, John Street, joined by one Jake Long and one Kyle Not So Sharp. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
Good. Penn State just clutched out a victory. It was ugly, but they still held on. Now excited to rip off another pie with y'all.
Very, very ugly. Turnovers on turnovers for both teams.
Five turnovers.
Fortunately, the Nittany Lions were able to capitalize on a few more of those turnovers. But this is an Eagle show. We're going to talk Birds. Jake, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. Rainy day here. Getting the end of that storm that hit Florida pretty hard and also South Carolina. So it was a nice rainy day in. Caught up on Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings show. So I've been meaning to do that. Just been running around like crazy, doing stuff for the podcast and also just watching football pretty much seems like every day of the week. So it was nice to finally catch up on some shows today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, guys, Jake has been working away down there in the lab. He's been turning out a lot of crazy stuff. You guys will see it here throughout the show. But without any further ado, we're going to bring on our guest here. He covers the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's new friend of the show, Jamal St. Cyr. And Jamal, I can't thank you enough for joining us here today. Before we get started here, just let everybody know who you are and where they can find your work.
Yeah, I work over on News for Jags down in Jacksonville, so Channel 4. I've been covering the Jaguars this will be my fourth year covering them. Fun, interesting team, a lot quieter than it was last year, obviously.
Oh, I can imagine.
But in good ways. So, appreciate y'all having me on. I'm always happy to talk some ball.
Absolutely. Seriously appreciate you coming on here. We got Vinny D checking in over on Facebook, says, "Go Birds." I don't think anything else needs to be said. Let's dive right into it here. I guess let's just start here. And obviously this is our Eagle Eye on the other side segment. What is the overall sentiment right now around this Jags team? What's kind of the feeling down there in Jacksonville?
Oh, the feeling around Jacksonville is through the roof right now. I mean, you got to think about it, though. I mean, this is a team that's had the number one overall pick back-to-back years. Last year, they won 3 games. The year before that, they won 1 game. So they're 3 games into the season and have already won 2 games. So everybody's feeling great. I mean, legitimately, because 3 games into the season and you've almost equaled last year's win total. You've already equaled the same amount of games that it took Urban, 14 weeks to win? So, people are feeling great right now here in Jacksonville. They're loving what Doug Peterson has working. Trevor Lawrence is showing some progress. So, good signs, and Jags fans are excited.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Trevor Lawrence looks like a completely different quarterback here with Doug Peterson. And if nothing else, I think from the Philadelphia side of things, I think this is going to prove that Doug Peterson is a good coach and that, maybe we moved on from him a little too soon. But happy with how it turned out with Nick Sirianni here. Yes, another question for you would be, what's it really like, having Doug Peterson down there? What's it seem like he's really brought to the team? Obviously, the culture's got to be a lot different. He's a real players coach as opposed to, Urban Meyer, who, we all read the articles and we all seen the reports last year.
Complete opposite of
This
Urban Meyer.
Oh, complete. This is a 180. This is the first time it feels like the Jaguars have had like an adult running the show in at least 3 years. It's been rough. Even before Urban got here that last season for Doug Marrone, they were halfway checked out. He knew he was getting fired like when the year started with the roster he had. The Minshew Mania stuff was fun. Gardner Minshew, as y'all know, a character, great dude, loved having him here.
Great
But
backup.
it was just great backup. It was just a crazy thing. He was the starter, played great week one. Next thing you knew, he was in the doghouse. It's just been a rough few years here. And with Doug Peterson in charge, it finally feels like there's someone who understands how the NFL works, calling the shots. The players love him. The players seem to be learning things and feel like they're being put in a position to succeed. Look, people love Doug. It took the Jaguars a long time to finally hire a coach last year, and through that whole head coaching search, we weren't sure what was going to happen. But them landing Doug Peterson seems to be right now, obviously it's very early, but seems to be the right move.
Yeah, and do you think Doug Peterson returning to Philadelphia for the first time, you think this team's going to be a lot more fired up to go out and try to get this win for their coach?
The players aren't openly talking about it, but the ones that will have all said they know that this game means, like Doug won't say it.
Yeah.
We asked Doug a bunch of times. He's like, it's just another game. And he wants his team to think of it as another game. Those guys know this game means a little bit more to Doug.
No doubt.
They know it. And a few of the guys even said it. They'd like to go and try and get a win for their coach because this is his return to Philadelphia. And, regardless of how he's compartmentalized it or dealt with, leaving, going back to where he won the Super Bowl. He has a statue there. It'll mean a little bit more for him.
Definitely. That's got
to be interesting. Walking into a stadium where your statue's outside, right? That's got to be something different. I don't think there's another situation like it in the league, if I'm, not mistaken.
I don't think so. And look,
usually you don't build a statue till after their careers are over.
Right. Apparently, he's never actually seen the statue in person. Is what he told us.
I find that hard to believe.
He claims he's never seen the statue in person. He says his family has, like the wife and kids have gone to visit it, but he claims to not plan to visit it until he is officially retired. That's at least what he said.
I don't know, man. I love me some me. If there's a statue of me outside of an NFL stadium, I can't say I'm not going to go visit it.
That's what I said. I was like, how were you not there when they unveiled this thing? Like you feel like they want him and Nick there when they make it first show off the statue, right?
Yeah, you got to at least go over there, check the jawline, make sure everything looks good,
It does look really good.
Shave a little off the nose,
Yeah.
So Jamal, you mentioned the Doug Peterson, maybe the impact that he's had on Trevor Lawrence, and he looks much better. There's a lot of talk in the offseason on Christian Kirk and the contract they gave him. But I'm curious on your thoughts on the running back situation. James Robinson is coming back from an injury. There's a lot of buzz in camp on ETN that I was hearing. And the split in the usage between the two has been a little bit surprising to me. Has that been surprising to you, or is that just something a lot of the public outside of Jacksonville missed?
So ETN's like the fun new toy. He's got the speed and the flash plays, and especially during training camp when they're not tackling. A guy that can go from 0 to 60 in like the snap of his fingers, he's going to make some of those splash plays. I've expected for a while that as long as James Robinson was healthy, he was going to be the bell cow running back. James isn't – he's actually looked more explosive now than he looked before the Achilles injury, which is insane to think considering he's less than a year removed from it. But, before that Achilles injury, he was just this running back who didn't really break off big runs, but – he would turn what would be a 2-yard run into maybe a 5 or 6 yard run. He's reliable. He's going to get the job done. This year, he's like a man on a mission, breaking long runs that nobody had seen him breaking in his NFL career. That's not to say that ETN won't be involved, but I think ETN's that flashy new toy that, he got the Liz Frank injury so early on last year where that coaching staff felt like they were trying to hide him. And then he kind of goes down. Nobody gets to see him. So then when he's healthy a year later, a lot of people were expecting huge things from him. And there's still time for him to get to that point and make some of those splash plays. But I think just because J-Rob hasn't broken, he's never been like the big play, flashy, like highlight reel kind of running back. I think people sometimes forget just how good of a player he is.
It's amazing to me that a guy like him goes undrafted. Just how does that happen? It's just crazy. Like, no disrespect to ETN, but there's no way that ETN's a first rounder and James Robinson's not worthy of a draft pick. That's just crazy.
I think that ETN pick was all because of the Trevor Lawrence connection.
Yeah.
And that was what they had 2 or 3 first round picks that year when they took him. Yeah. So
2 first round picks. And it wouldn't surprise me if Urban Meyer just knew who ETN was because he was watching Trevor. It honestly wouldn't at this point. I mean, they drafted a tight end, and we asked him why they drafted Luke Farrell, and he just goes, "Luke Farrell's got a good family." Why do I care about his family?
Yeah. Was his dad a linebacker?
It's just crazy.
So, I mean, special breed, I guess.
He really is. Different kind of cat, man.
Absolutely. No, I'm happy for the Jacksonville, fans and the city. It seems like you guys obviously have a proven winner in Doug Peterson as a coach, and like you said, it's going to be nice to have an adult in the room down there finally. One thing I was curious about is, what's one area of the game that you guys feel you're going to have an upper hand on going into tomorrow's matchup?
An upper hand. When I kind of look at this one, I mean, the Jaguars have been underdogs in every game this season. And I'll say they're probably an underdog again. I mean, if we're saying an upper hand in a matchup, man, that's tough. I mean, the offensive line and defensive line have performed well at times this year. If I was going to say that there's an upper hand, I mean, with Anthony Maddox out and knowing the way they like to put Christian Kirk in the slot, I'd say that's probably the matchup advantage that they're going to have is, I mean, the plan is for them to move Christian Kirk around. They've done it a ton. Their goal is always to get him matched up on a linebacker when they can. And if not, he's on that slot corner. And with Maddox out, I think that's got to be the advantage matchup for the Jaguars right now.
One thing I was looking at when I was reading up on the Jags is their run defense. It's been one of the best in the league this year, only giving up 3.1 yards a carry.
55 yards a game.
The Eagles are one of the best rushing teams, not only because of Hurts, but because their offensive line's great at run blocking more than anything else. So that's a matchup I'm going to be looking at, especially because the weather's going to be so bad. Both teams are good in the trenches, so that's what I believe is going to come down to is just whoever can win that line of scrimmage is going to end up winning this game because throwing the ball might be tough, especially if you're trying to throw downfield in 10 to 20-mile-an-hour winds and a soaking wet football.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously dive into our betting segment a little bit down the road here tonight, but I'm going to say early take the under.
Yeah, this will be a different kind of matchup for that Jags defense because this is the first mobile quarterback that they faced this year. I mean, Matt Ryan ain't running nowhere.
Statue.
Justin Herbert had, his ribs were injured. He can move a little bit, but he wasn't trying to move much. And then you had Carson Wentz who can move a little bit, but definitely not to the level that Hurts can move around. So that'll definitely be a different kind of matchup than this Jags defense has dealt with. But I mean, one of the reasons why their run defense has been well is because that's what Trayvon Walker can do right now. I mean, he's day one, the expectation was he's a physical guy who can make an impact in that run game. And he's not a bad pass rusher by any means, but I mean, that compared to what he can do on the run side, I mean, that'd be the weakness of his game. So that his impact in that run defense has definitely been huge for what they've been able to do so far.
And Devin Lloyd looks like he's going to be a stud. I was hoping the Eagles would take him so bad. We ended up with Jordan Davis, so not a bad pick. But Devin Lloyd's all over the place, and he's a 4-down guy. He's going to play almost every snap of the defense is out there.
It's
he's a baller, man.
It's interesting that you guys bring up Lloyd and Trayvon Walker, their two top picks. Another guy that's played well, and I wanted to ask you about the rookie's impact as a whole. Their third-round rookie out of Kentucky, Luke Fortner at center. I think he's done a serviceable job. I believe he was a career guard at Kentucky, and he made the transition over center. That's a big responsibility to start day one from center. And what's the impact just not only he's had, but the other rookies that we've already talked about? What kind of impact have they given immediately to the team?
I mean, when you get 3 starters out of your rookie draft, you're doing pretty good. Walker and Lloyd have been huge for what this defense has been able to do. Fortner sliding in there at center, has been huge. He's still throughout the course of the game, there's 1 or 2 plays where you're like, all right, he's still a rookie, and you can kind of see that from him. But overall, he's fitting great. It helps that he has some veteran guys next to him. Ben Barch has been there for a few years, and Brandon Sheriff is definitely the leader in that room. Yeah, so Fortner has played phenomenally, helping to fill in that spot at center and anchor down. And hope the hope in Jacksonville from Trent Baalke and company is that Fortner will be able to grow with Trevor Lawrence, because they look at some of those combinations where great quarterbacks and great centers stay together for a decade.
Absolutely.
So that's what they're hoping to build there. But those 2 rookies on defense have been huge. Walker and Lloyd are changing the way the Jaguars are able to play. And some of the veteran players have been sounding off about them since before the pads went on, just because of how big and fast they are. Sometimes I think even last week, Devin Lloyd was able to tip a pass in coverage that, some of the veteran players were like, I didn't think he could get to that. And there was one play, like Trayvon Walker gets a lot of love, but there was one play where he just dropped into coverage and made a pass breakup. And you're like, that's a 280-pound guy that just, dropped into coverage like that.
Yep.
So they got some athletes, and these guys can play some football. So they're off to a good start, but the true belief is that the best is yet to come for these guys.
I think that's always the hope, with guys, right? You never want to see a couple weeks in.
Are any of these injuries, guys? There's 2 guys out I see for the Jaguars. Are any of those big key injuries? I know the guard Cole Van Lannon and Caleb Von Chasen, I think his name is, linebacker. Are they starters, or are they just depth guys?
Both of them are depth guys. Van Lannon is a backup. Chasen plays some snaps in pass rushing situations. He'd be a bigger loss than Van Lannon because Chasen has gotten some reps on the defense. The injury that I'm paying close attention to is Zay Jones. That's the one. Because if he's out, that is a huge blow to what the Jaguars want to do on offense. Last week, off the top of my head, I think it was 10 catches, something like that, against the Chargers for him and a touchdown. He's a big part of that passing attack, and if they're missing him, they'll have to change some things on exactly how they want to line up.
Who's the next guy in?
If he's out, it'll probably be Tim Jones.
Okay, because I know they let Laviska Shenault go.
Right, they traded Visca. They have Tim Jones. They could go Jamal Agnew, but he can't line up outside the way Zay Jones is, and that's what they need Zay to do, which if they went with Agnew, then all of a sudden now you got to make Christian Kirk line up outside, which means all of a sudden he's running into Slay, which is not what they want him to do.
And what's like the % chance of these to play, especially with the weather being so bad? That's got to play a factor in a guy with a bad ankle, wanting him to go out and cut on that kind of grass.
It's an injury that popped up late in the week or midweek, so
never good.
It's never a good sign.
Situation. Just having him practice, and then he was questionable and out, and I was shocked by that.
Right. So, they had a similar situation last week where Shaquille Griffin popped up on the injury report on Friday and then ended up missing the game. They're hoping he'll be back this week. He said he feels pretty good, like he should be able to go, which helps the defense. But if I had to give Zay, right now, I know he's listed as questionable. I'd say it's 60-40, 40 that he's out and 60 that he's out and 40 that he goes. Just because that ankle, like you said, with the weather coming in and something that pops up midweek like that, it's never a real good sign.
So I wanted to take a quick, bigger picture. Obviously, we're worried about this week, but What's the season outlook? Obviously, there's a little optimism there. You know, they got rid of Urban, they got Doug in there. That division's just completely terrible. Is there any optimism that they can maybe make a run and win this division this year? Or are we just kind of focusing on the big picture here?
I've been saying since the beginning, but since before the season started, that this division's terrible and that it's not out of the question that somebody makes it out of this division with 7 or 8 wins. And this is a Jaguars team that could 100% get 7 or 8 wins throughout the course of the season.
So is there any talk about that down there, or they're just kind of happy they're winning a couple games and competitive right now?
A lot of Jags fans aren't wanting to buy in on it yet.
Yeah.
You know, they're not wanting to buy in on it yet, but I fully believe that this team has a shot at winning the division. Just because I'm not a believer in the Texans. I'm not a believer in what I've seen from the Colts so far. And, I mean, the Titans have been up and down and are missing their best player on defense for the whole year. I mean, so at some point, somebody has to win some games. I don't think the Colts or the Titans are going to consistently win. I don't think the Jaguars are necessarily going to consistently win. But one of those three is going to come out on top. I think the Jaguars have a swinger's chance at pulling it off.
It's fair enough.
They got a tough stretch in the middle of the season, though.
Yeah, that middle of the season stretch is going to be a tough. That's where they're going to really learn some things. But, I mean, that game against the Broncos doesn't look as fierce as it once did.
Woo,
you know,
Russell Wilson looks on fire.
Right. So,
as well as the Raiders,
like,
too. I thought they were going to be stacked and they haven't looked good.
I did, too. So that was the stretch where before the season I had them winning 7 games is what I had called. But, you know, one of those games I picked as a loss was the Chargers game, and I definitely had, like, the Broncos and Raiders marked down as losses. Mm-hmm. But looking at them now, I'm like,
they seem winnable.
Let off. Yeah. So the Jaguars, they got a shot. I mean, they got a shot, you know, because I just don't believe in what the Colts and Titans are doing right now. Just don't.
And in a rebuilding year, all you can really hope for as a fan or as somebody covering the team is that your team has a puncher's chance. You know, just the ability to get in there, at least keep it interesting, maybe win a couple of games. And, you know, in a division like that where it's very well possible to walk away with the division title, then, you know, why not? I definitely see why there's, you know, the optimism that there is around this Jaguars team here now. One other thing I wanted to ask you is what do you feel is like one major key to the game or what's something that you're looking for if it's a small victory? Like I've been talking all off season about Jalen Hurts and his journey to becoming the player that he's going to be and taking these stepping stones. What's one of those stepping stones for this franchise that you'd like to see maybe this week?
You know, I'd really like to see Trevor go out and be able to get into a shootout and win it. Because I fully believe this Eagles offense is going to score. And I think they're going to put up points. And up until now, Trevor has never gone into a game and been able to make a defense just consistently pay. Where you looked at it and you're like, oh, man, that's the guy. You know, he's had some good games. Like last week was a good game, but never once do you look at it and say, oh, man, like think about how you've seen Jalen Hurts go out there and dice some of these defenses up this season. Trevor doesn't have that where he's just, you know, dropping bombs and you're like, oh, there it is. Yep. So at some point, that would be a huge stepping stone. If Trevor can go out there and just slice and dice that Eagles defense and keep up with the points that I think the Eagles offense is going to put up, I think that would be a huge point for this franchise moving forward.
Absolutely. Guys, you got anything else for Jamal here before we move on?
No,
yes, sir.
That's it. Just thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. I'm glad we got in touch with you.
Oh, we don't got no
appreciate
predictions.
Y'all having me.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's right, Kyle. What do you have for a prediction on the game? We usually do this. I don't know why I forgot. You know, score prediction. Who you think comes out on top here?
So I think Eagles win this one. I have the difference as like a late touchdown. I think 28-21 is what I'm sticking with right now.
So the Eagles cover is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
All right,
that's exactly where I'm at.
I'm gonna at you on Twitter if they don't. I just wanted to let you know.
All right, deal. I'm with it. No, that's my pick. I think, like I said, I think this Eagles offense is going to be a huge test for the Jags D. And overall, I think Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are just going to be too much of a combination for them. that they just won't be able to contain to get the win. But you know what? At some point, hanging with good teams is a huge stepping stone for this Jaguars team, just to say they're in the game, which is what, you know, in a growing year, you just want them to compete week in and week out. So even if in a close loss like that, the way I think it'll happen, I think Jags fans will be 100% fine with that.
Absolutely. There you have it, guys. Our friend Jamal St. Cyr, 28-21 Eagles, he says. Again, Jamal, can't appreciate you coming on enough. Guys, if you're down in Jacksonville, make sure you tune in to Channel 4 and catch our friend Jamal here on the Sports Desk. Thanks again for joining us here on Sundays for the Birds, and you're welcome back anytime.
Hey, appreciate y'all, man. Good luck on Sunday. Have a good rest of the season.
Well.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it,
buddy.
There you have it. Can't appreciate Jamal enough for joining us here for our Eagle Eye on the other side. Now I say it's high time we dive into this from the Birds' perspective. Gentlemen, I'll ask you this. Your keys to the game here, we'll start off with it. As usual, everybody knows we get 3 keys to the game. Kyle, let's switch it up here. We'll go to you first.
Go to me first. All right, so Jake mentioned earlier the weather. I think there's going to be a couple games affected by weather. You know, we mentioned the Penn State earlier. 5 turnovers Penn State had, and they still managed to win. So I think, winning the turnover battle is always important, but especially in a game with the weather, that's a big factor. So that's going to be my first key to the game.
The Jags are a +7 turnover differential.
Yeah, and they've been getting after the quarterback too. They've been pretty decent on defense so far this year.
Exactly.
My second thing, I want continued success rushing the passer. We saw last week 9 sacks. That's not going to happen again. But if you can consistently get 4-man pressure and you don't have to blitz extra guys, that is so huge. So hopefully I look for guys, you know, Josh led a big game and Reddick got involved. Look for the defensive pass rush to keep staying aggressive, and consistently getting pressure would be my second key to the game. And thirdly, Jalen Hurts, let's keep on rolling. He's had a great start to the year, and there's no reason to slow down now. The Jaguars' best players on defense are in the front 7. I know they went out and got Shaquille Griffin in the offseason, but he's questionable. But even if he plays, there's nothing to be scared of in that secondary. So hopefully I look for Jalen Hurts to keep building on what he's done so far this year and keep proving me wrong, because so far he's done that.
And I hope he continues to do that.
Yes,
Jake, what do you got here for us? 3 keys to a Birds victory.
Just pretty much reiterate what Kyle was saying with the turnovers. It's going to be a nasty weather game out there. So I hope they keep on the ground a lot more, control the clock, control the ball. Boston Scott being out, you might see a little bit Trey Sermon, which is a more north-south running back, so it might not be a bad thing. Just have him in there pounding us sometimes. But that's number 1, turnovers. Number 2 is win the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Jaguars average over 4 yards a carry, just like the Eagles do. The only thing is, we talked about it with Jamal, is that they have a rookie center. So I hope the defense sends a lot of blitzes through there and have Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis just eating that rookie center up. But, if we can run the ball effectively and stop the run, I don't see there's no way that we can't pull it out, because that run game's just going to open everything up for Hurts. And hopefully we score some points in the second half as well. And my final key, I'm not even sure. I think that's just with this being such a sloppy game. I think that turnovers and the line of scrimmage are going to be what wins the game. Maybe a late coaching decision. Hopefully, they both like to go for it on 4th down. I think they're 4 of 7 on 4th down. We're 4 of 6. That could be a key moment in the game if one of us have to go for it on 4th down. It'll be interesting.
All right. I got 3 for you here. My first one is something that I think goes without speaking. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be said. But for those of you going to the game, get loud. Make it hell for this young quarterback and this rookie center. Get in there, rattle their cages, distract them, make it hard for them to read what the defenses are doing. And this is super important for the rookie center. Most of the times in an NFL offense, your center calls out the protections, identifies the Mike linebacker, and sets the pass protection, sets the run protection. Make it hard for these guys to communicate on that offensive line. Make it hard for that left tackle to hear the guy 3 spots over at the center position calling out the protection. Hopefully cause some miscues and lead to some easy sacks. Number 2.
Sean, before you move on to number 2, I want to touch on that point you made about being loud. A lot of people are selling their tickets for super cheap right now. So if you can't afford to usually go to an Eagles game, which are usually $225 a piece for upper, 25 row and later, there's tickets on here now for $100. Upper level row 4, which seats are awesome, for $110. So if we want to be loud, we got to have the stadium filled. I feel like a lot of these rich season ticket holders don't want to go get a little wet. So they are selling off their tickets. So if you usually can't afford an Eagles game, like I said, they're upward of $200 plus each. You can get them right now for $100 to $120 a piece. So come join me tomorrow and get loud with me.
Absolutely. Great chance for the working man to get into an Eagles game here tomorrow. Number 2, key to the game. Be aggressive. Like you mentioned, the weather, 10, 20-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to be difficult to pass the ball. You don't have to worry about getting beat over the top with these wind speeds the way that they're going to be. Be aggressive. Dial up some exotic blitzes. I'd love to even see maybe a few corner blitzes or a safety blitz mixed in there in addition to the linebackers. Just get aggressive. Put some pressure on this young quarterback and, force him to make some bad decisions. Hopefully we continue to be aggressive and, add on to those sacks that have been piling up, at least due to last week in that 9-sack performance. And number 1, everybody's mentioning the running game with it being such a slop game and with the weather and everything. But I think what a lot of people are forgetting is the screen game, which to me is an extension of your run game. It's an opportunity to showcase some offensive linemen with athleticism, guys like Jason Kelce that can get out and move. On a nice screen pass like that, you get Jason Kelce out moving, throw a nice little cut block on a corner or something like that, open up some space on the edges there. So look for the screen game to be huge as well in tomorrow's matchup.
Quick question for you guys. I haven't followed it too closely. Are we really going to see Trey Sermon get action over my guy Kennedy Brooks? Is that going to happen?
Kennedy Brooks is on the roster.
I thought he was on the practice squad.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad.
They just brought up Covey. I didn't see anybody else get brought up.
Oh my goodness, dude! If Trey Sermon's not good enough to make the Niners roster, which just produces running back after running back, why do we want their sloppy seconds?
Because he's still a 3rd-round pick.
Oh my goodness! Come on, draft capital don't mean shit. I really thought we were going to see a little Kennedy Brooks action this week with Boston Scott out.
I mean, Kennedy Brooks is undrafted, so
yeah, like I said, draft capital don't mean shit. I don't care if he's drafted in the 3rd or dude. Talking about the Jaguars earlier, James Robinson's a undrafted guy, and Travis Etienne's a 1st-rounder.
You got to respect the value, though, right? And understand that this is a guy that certain people around the league probably had pretty high on their draft boards, and felt that if they got him into their organization, that they could turn him into, maybe not necessarily a premier running back, but a quality back, and to get the guy for literally nothing, speaks volumes. And again, I'll reiterate what Jake said earlier. He's a north-south runner. And honestly, as a north-south runner, as long as you know the playbook and you're running behind this Eagles offensive line, I don't see there's any reason why you can't be productive here.
I just really liked Kennedy Brooks. I was really hoping to see him get a couple totes this week, so that kind of sucks for me, but whatever.
You still might see him down the line. It's a long season. A lot of people get hurt.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Absolutely. All right. Any other matchups you guys are interested in here moving forward? You guys heard me ask Jamal, what was an area where he felt confident. He felt that the Jags might have the upper hand. I'm going to flip that and ask you guys, what's an area that you feel a bit of concern about? This is a pesky Jags team here.
My biggest concern is that they're going to be super pumped up. And if we come out slow and they come out fast because, they're playing for their new coach, who's a player's coach, seems like he's already changed the culture down there. So that's my biggest worry. If we get off to a slow start and they come out and punch us in the mouth, if we dig ourselves a big hole, can we get out of it? So starting fast needs to happen, and then finishing strong too, because we could have easily scored 30 points the past 2 weeks if we wanted to score in the second half. So
Absolutely. Start fast and don't get stuck in the mud early.
Yep.
Kyle, what's one area of concern that you have?
So not really a whole lot of not really a whole lot of concern for me necessarily. I think the Eagles are pretty much a better team than the Jaguars across the board. But Jamal touched on it earlier. Christian Kirk in the slot with Devontae Maddox out. I've been doing a little research. Something that I read earlier was through 3 weeks, the Jaguars have had Christian Kirk lined up on a linebacker or matched up versus a linebacker between 40 or 50% of the time. So if that's something that continues, I know the Eagles linebackers have played pretty good to start the year. That's definitely a mismatch, and that's definitely something that you can't have happening too much throughout the game.
Absolutely. One area of concern for me is Avonte Maddox. I said it before, I'll say it again. He's the best slot corner in football, and you're a much better team with him on the field. It's that simple. So hopefully it's a quick recovery. We see him back here next week.
A big opportunity for Josiah Scott. Fill in and, put some good film out there. Get yourself some more reps.
Fingers crossed, baby. This is where you start to see kind of what your depth is, and this is where you really figure out what Howie Roseman's made of. A lot of people look at the top half of the roster, but the truly great GMs are able to build depth and really round out their roster with that bottom half. I mean, I just rewatched Super Bowl 52 the other night, and there were so many guys on that team that you maybe necessarily didn't hear about until they came up, until their number was called. So Josiah Scott hopefully answers the bell when his number's called here tomorrow. All right, guys, you ready to move on here? We'll dive into our predictions for Dog of the Week.
Sounds good.
All right, as you saw there, guys, on the video, Dog of the Week brought to you by our friends at Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company and Sterling Pig Brewing Company. Our dogs over there got you covered for all your inebriation needs. Get yourself some Sterling Pig or Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company beers for the game tomorrow as you kick back and watch our birds hopefully kick some Jaguar ass. Boys, let's throw it around here. Predictions. Dog of the game. Who are we expecting? Jake, I'll let you lead this one off.
I know we talked about going with a group last week, so I think the group's going to have to be the offensive line this week. The Jaguars' defensive line and their new linebacker, Devin Lloyd and company, have been holding teams to 3-point yards per carry, and one of those teams include Jonathan Taylor, one of the absolute best running backs in the league. I'm not sure if the Colts are using him right this year, but they still kept him in check. So if our offensive line comes out and we pound the ball and keep Hurts clean, they'll be my dog of the game.
I like it. Kyle, prediction, dog of the game. Who you got?
Dog of the game. I'm going to go with Marcus Epps. He's been really solid through 3 weeks. He's made a lot of plays. And if it wasn't for, Darius Slay getting some pub and 9 sacks, or Darius Slay having the big game versus Justin Jefferson, 9 sacks last week on the defensive line, there'd be more people talking about him. Eventually, he's going to make a big game-changing play. Maybe it'll be this week. I'm going to go with him as dog of the game, and hopefully he makes a big play for the Eagles this week.
Man, you have made a full turnaround on Marcus Epps, and I love to see that.
He's everything you want in a safety, or at least through 3 weeks. Like, dude, when they were going into the year, when they cut Jaquiski Tartt, I was sitting there like, this is terrible. You need him.
Well, you had to understand it, though. I mean, the guy was absent, for a large portion of camp in the preseason.
I understand that, but I thought when they signed him, he was a surefire lock to make the roster.
Mhm.
And when people were pumping up Marcus Epps, and I was just like, I don't really see it. But through 3 weeks, he's looked great. And he sure
As
looks
well
like
as,
he might turn into a really good safety.
as well as cutting Anthony Harris as well. I know he hasn't been great, but he's a veteran guy who's been in the system. So it was wild to see. I think he's back on the practice squad.
Yeah, to have
I think
two
so, yeah.
veterans, do you think you're going to have a safety, and then to cut them both? I mean, that's just that you don't see that a whole lot.
Well, and not to say that Epps isn't a veteran either. I mean, he's got some years in the league now to this point. He's been around. But I think you're starting to see him take leadership of that safety room, right? He's the only guy that's really played safety at the NFL level. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a slot corner in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Has the versatility, can play safety. Obviously, he's playing safety for us now. But I think you're seeing Epps really take control of that safety room and be that leader back there that we're so accustomed to having in Philadelphia. You talk about our proud history of safeties with guys like Brian Dawkins, Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod. All three guys, great leaders, great safeties for the Eagles. So I think you're really starting to see Epps start to take steps forward. I think that's a great pick for dog of the game. I'm
willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I mean, it hurts to admit when you're wrong. Let me tell you, especially for me. But Marcus Epps and Jalen Hurts have definitely had me back off so far this year.
Absolutely, good to hear. Couldn't be better for the Eagles. So my pick for dog of the game, again, I'm going to go to the sideline here.
Every week with you.
Hold on. I'm going to the offensive side of the ball. I'm sticking with the coordinators. I think Shane Steichen here is going to show you what he's made of as a coordinator here in the NFL. We mentioned the weather. We keep going back to the weather. It's going to be a slop fest. We're going to have to run the ball. We're going to have to get creative in the screen game. So I'm interested to see what kind of screen plays he can dial up. And I'm also interested to see what he can scheme up in the run game. It's a lot harder to run the football effectively when everybody knows you're going to do it. Beyond just, hey, our guys are better than yours. Let's line up, run it right down your throats. You're going to have to get a little more creative to that when it's going to be a full game endeavor running the football. So I'm interested to see what Shane Steichen can do this week, and I think it's a huge test for him, but I think he's up to the challenge. And this is hopefully the last time that I mention Shane Steichen, because if he has a great year, I don't want to hear his name in coaching interviews next season.
Yeah, if Jonathan Gannon keeps this up, he's going to be another candidate yet again this year.
Absolutely.
What's up, Steve? Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. We're doing well. We'll be doing better tomorrow if we get another Eagles win.
For sure. Appreciate you checking in. Appreciate you listening. Don't forget to be a friend, tell a friend, where they get the best Eagles talk in the city. Let's move it along here. We all know we're degenerate gamblers here on Sundays for the Birds. Anybody listening out there at FanDuel, feel free to reach out for a sponsorship. For this next segment here, our not-so-sharp picks of the week.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money.
Dollar.
Love the new intro videos, Jake.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely love them. Segment brought to you by our friends at Fanatics. Make sure you check out the affiliate link down below in the description of this episode. Fanatics, everything official available at Fanatics. Use that link down below. Let them know Sundays for the Birds, Old City Sports Network sent you. And our friends at Righteous Felon Beef Jerky. Use our promo code at their website, righteousfelon.com. 15% off your entire order. Once again, that's promo code OCSN at checkout for 15% off all your craft jerky needs. And last but not least, our friends at Norse Beards. That's Norse, Norse beards.com. Use that promo code OCS for 25% off your entire order. Get yourself looking like Jake Long. Get yourself looking like the mayor of John Street and the Norse gods with our friends at Norse Beards. And save yourself 25% off. Promo code OCS. Boys, let's cook up some parlays. What can I say? Yeah, I'm all about parlays. I'm all about the big swings. And let's be honest, any jabroni can sit here and pick some games, right? It takes a real degenerate expert gambler to make a few heavy swings throughout the season on some of these parlays. Kyle, namesake of the segment, got to let you lead it off here. Not so sharp. Parlay of the week.
So before I get into a parlay for Sunday, I want to tell you all about my parlay that missed today. It was a $250 bet, free bet. I joined Caesars. They're finally in PA. Shout out them. I had Alabama money line, Penn State money line, the Demon Deacons money line. They won by 10, 6.5 point dogs. And I had Kentucky money line. They lost by 3. Will Levis fumbled twice inside the red zone in the fourth quarter, and he choked me away a nice little $25.
Didn't they score and get called back though in the fourth quarter, and then they
did do that as well, and the guy wasn't set. I was upset about that. I was more upset about 2 fumbles in the red zone. That can't happen. But
Missouri State killed my parlay. Missouri State killed my college parlay.
Who are they playing?
I can't remember. It was a 19-leg parlay.
19 legs. Jesus.
19 legs. Yo, I had a free $20 bet. It paid out like $780. Dude, what do you want me to do?
That's insane.
Yeah, you're wild.
Hey, you know what? All it takes is one.
All right, so going on to this week, I haven't looked at team bets too much. I will tell you, Cortland Sutton goes off for 100 yards and a touchdown this week. But I'm going to go with what my buddy Jamal said. The Eagles are going to cover 6.5. That's going to be my first one. I like Seattle this week. At Detroit, I'm going to take Seattle money line. Detroit's down DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift. Look for Rashad Penny to get in the run game. So I'm going to take Seattle money line. And we're going to take Denver plus 2.5 versus Las Vegas. So Vegas is 0-3. It's a must-win game for them. But Denver at 2-1 looks like shit to start the year. At some point, Russ is going to get cooking. He's going to start showing people, he was worthy of that contract. So that's what I'm going to go with for my 3-team parlay. I don't have it up on FanDuel or anything, so I don't know what it pays out. But that's what I'm going to do, and I'll lock that in later. And I'll let you know if it all hits.
What was your last one? Raiders?
No, Denver plus 2.5.
I like it. All right, Jake, you got something cooked up for us?
Yeah, I did a 14 parlay. Just put $10 on it. It'll win you $168. I got Minnesota minus 3.5 at New Orleans. New Orleans has Andy Dalton as their quarterback.
The Red Rifle.
I feel like that team's getting ready to go down a bad path and hopefully start trading some guys off. Maybe the Eagles can pry Alvin Kamara away from him, which would be pretty sick. But that's my first bet. Colts money line over the Titans. I know they both had good wins last week. I think the Colts are starting to get together. They're going to start using Jonathan Taylor more, and Tennessee just got nothing scares me about Tennessee. They lost their best pass rusher. Derrick Henry has been getting destroyed. I mean, week 1, he got laid out, which you never see Derrick Henry do. So I have the Colts winning money line. That's minus 186. And then I got the Ravens beating the Bills. Lamar Jackson's playing for his contract. He's on fire, has more touchdowns than every other team in the NFL just by himself, besides his own team. And Buffalo's got some injuries on defense. I think the Ravens take advantage of that. And my last one is I got the Jets over the Steelers just because I hate the Steelers and I want to root against them even harder tomorrow. So that added a little boost to my parlay. So Jets over Steelers, and plus Cougar Hunter, Zach Wilson might be back under center. So maybe he'll fling it around without TJ Watt chasing him in the backfield. And plus Steelers, I mean, they look like they're ready to kick Trubisky's ass. I mean, you look at George Pickens all the time, throwing his hands up after routes and shit. I mean, that's not.
You're just upset because you took him at pick 85 in our fantasy draft.
Yeah.
Come on now.
That's not
Yeah, I took him in one of my other leagues too.
That's not a good look for a rookie to be that I don't know, cocky already that he thinks he's getting the ball thrown to him. But he's probably learning from the prima donna over there from Notre Dame, Chase Claypool.
He's a big prima donna. I've heard some comparisons to Antonio Brown already. I mean, that's rough.
Oof.
Steve just updated us on the Phillies, 5-0. About time. Hopefully they don't blow that one.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. It's coming down to the wire here with the Phils.
Yep. Even right now with the Brewers.
So my not so sharp parlay this week. I'm going to ride Kyle here. I'm going to say Birds are going to cover -6.5 here. I also took the under in the Eagles-Jags game. Again, we keep going back to the weather, right? It's going to be a muck fest. I think it's going to be a ball control defense kind of a game. Run the ball down your throat, and see which team has the most chest there. Who's ready to buck up and win a football game? And I think the Eagles come out, but again, I think the under at 45.5 is going to hit. I hate to do this, but it's a divisional game. Washington and Dallas. I think Dallas covers -3. Not really much to say about that. I just feel they're the better team.
Yeah, I was going to take that, but I couldn't root for Dallas. So, because I feel like Micah Parsons, if we could sack Wentz 9 times, Cowboys' defensive line has been their bright spot. I mean, everyone's winning games for him. So he's going to be getting killed again.
Jake,
I probably should have looked this up before I took this, but is anybody know if Dak's back?
No, he's not back.
No,
he's still
out.
Okay.
Next week.
That's better though. Cooper Rush never lost as a starter.
Exactly. And I also have the Arizona Cardinals covering -1.5 against the Carolina Panthers on the road. I just feel like the Cardinals are a better team, plain and simple. They're just a better team. I believe in the quarterback more. And they still have some weapons there. I know Hollywood Brown is questionable. I know D-Hop is still out. But, at the end of the day, I think they have a competent offense, and I think they'll find a way to win here on Sunday. So that 4-leg parlay, $10 will win you $119. So, again, we have the Arizona Cardinals to cover, Cowboys to cover, Eagles to cover, and the under in the Eagles-Jacksonville game. Total odds come out at plus 1192.
Nice.
So hopefully that one hits for me because I'm taking a fucking beating lately.
Yeah, I haven't hit on any bets yet in the NFL. Hoping as midseason rolls around, we start to get an idea of some of these teams.
Absolutely. All right, boys, it's time. We got game predictions. I think they're all going to be pretty low scoring here. Again, keep going back to the weather. But game prediction, Kyle, how you see the game going, and what's your final score?
Oh, I'm going to go 24-17 Eagles. I agree it's going to be a little lower scoring. I don't want to go too low scoring. This is the modern NFL. It is a offensive league. And like I said, I'm going to roll with my guy Jamal. He keeps telling me, he goes, the Eagles, they're going to cover. So my money is on him being right, covering his team, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Jake, what do you got? Game prediction, and how do you see the game going?
I think it's going to be a battle. We talked about it all show. It's going to be a battle at the offensive line in the trenches, and I just feel like the Eagles have more veterans in that area. Talked about the rookie center for the Jags. Fletcher Cox looks like he's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, I know it was just the Commanders, but he has 3 sacks already on the year. Sweat's coming on, and then I like TJ Edwards. He's been a hell of a player. Same with Kaiser White. So I feel like we'll win in the trenches and in that front 7. I have the Eagles finally scoring more than 24 points, not scoring 24 for 3 weeks in a row. I have them 27-21. Don't quite cover, but I don't care because I'm not betting on them. 27-21 Birds.
Have they really scored 24 every week?
No, the last 2 weeks they did.
Oh, last 2 weeks. Okay.
I think, right?
All right.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. It's going to be relatively low scoring by modern standards. Yeah, I think the Eagles find a way to get into the end zone a couple of times. I'm going to go Eagles 28 and Jaguars 18.
18 birds. So we all got the birds across the table.
One other thing I'll add to this, to add to our weather banter, if you will. I'm interested to see the kicking game. Kickoffs, punts. The punts scared the hell out of me with Aaron Sipas. You saw last year as it got colder out, his leg got worse and worse. His punts got, more and more horrendous. So I'm interested to see what his leg brings here in this game with the weather, with the winds, with the rain.
And if Covey's going to be back there.
I think he's going to be back there. I heard
the roster, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the only reason he would be up. I did hear a few people that that were at the game mention that that muff punt may have been caused because of some wind gusts. Jason Kelsey, for one, said it on the New Heights podcast with him and his brother Travis. If you guys haven't checked that out, great show.
Yeah, but I mean, as a punt returner, if that ball is to your side and you're stretching out for it, to just get away from it. Wind gusts or not, he stretched out for it. I'm not giving him a pass on that one. And it's going to be windy as all hell tomorrow. So that ball is going to be flailing all over the place. If you're not sure you're going to be able to catch 100%, let it go. Because like I said last week, that could have changed the whole game if they recover that inside the 5, score touchdowns 10-7. We got a whole different ball game. But just be smart. If you can't catch it, I'd rather bounce to the 2-yard line than to recover a fumble at the 2-yard line.
I agree. I also think that you can't give up on the guy if you feel that he's going to be a long-term answer for you back there.
I'm sure they had his ass out there just catching punts all practice all week. That was probably his sole thing to do, was just act there catching punts. Because you don't want to stick Devontae Smith or one of your starting receivers back there risking injury on one of those guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we ready for final thoughts?
Ugh. Always.
Kyle's favorite segment. Final thoughts brought to you by our friends at Lugaroo Custom Clothing. Make sure you use our friends at Lugaroo. That's lugaroo.co for all your custom clothing needs. Lugaroo.co. Let them know Sundays for the Birds and Old City Sports sent you. Final thoughts. Jake, what do you got?
I'm pumped for the game. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to it. Weather looked nice all week, and then all of a sudden the storm took a little turn, and it's hitting us more direct than we thought. So tailgate's going to be wet. We talked pre-show. I got my sister's picking up a bunch of ponchos for me and my nephew. They'll have a pregame poncho, an in-game poncho, and then also a seat poncho because you don't want your ass to be wet when you're sitting on those seats. Even though I usually stand 90% of the time. So I'm just fired up. Be at the link again. I hope some people can grab these tickets that are for sale. If they don't sell them, I hope those people show up because I hate when the Eagle Stadium's empty, whether or not. I mean, it's still a hell of a time. So just drink some beers, get a really good buzz when you go in. You'll forget it's raining. You'll feel good. So let's go Birds. Let's get another win while I'm there.
Absolutely. Kyle, what do you got? You're getting a little bit better at this final thoughts thing. You're making progress. I'm almost proud of you.
Almost. That's what I love to hear. Dude, the Eagles got to keep this momentum going. 3-0 to start the year. Look for them to get another win, keep the momentum going. It's almost starting to feel to me like a little bit a couple years ago when the Cowboys went 14-2 and like nobody really thought they were going to do that well. I projected them to go 10-7 at the start of the year personally. And just as the season started and the rest of the team just kind of flustered or whatever, Cowboys took off and they finished 14-2. Obviously, it didn't work out great for them that year in the playoffs, but it's kind of
never does.
Yeah, it never does for the Cowboys, but it's starting to feel like that for the Eagles, where the other teams are a mess, they got issues, and the Eagles are just kind of starting to run away with things. I know it's early and a lot can change, but keep the momentum up if you're the Eagles, and don't lose any confidence or anything like that for any of these guys out there.
Kyle, that may have been your best final thoughts segment yet. I love it. Guys, I want to lead off my final thoughts here with a statement if you boo Doug Peterson tomorrow, I do not consider you an Eagles fan. You are not my brother in green. The man brought us our one and only Super Bowl championship. So you give that man the standing ovation that he deserves when he walks out onto that field tomorrow.
I think
And then
he's going to, right?
100%.
Okay.
He should, but there's going to be a few assholes that boo.
Yeah, 100%.
There's going to be a few. And I'm speaking to those people now. So if you boo him, you're an asshole, you're a jabroni, and I don't consider you my brother in green.
Yeah. Boo him once the first quarter starts. And that's it.
Pretty much. After that, scream your heads off. Make it hard on this young offense. Show the fire and hopefully send Dougie P and the pesky Jags packing. And lastly, guys, I cannot stress this enough. We absolutely appreciate the hell out of everybody rocking with us here live tonight. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Live. Shout out our buddy Jamal from Channel 4 in Jacksonville for coming on with us for our Eagle Eye on the other side. And shout out to you, the listeners. We actually could not do the show without you. We love yous all. Go Birds!
B-A